it's overwhelming, but it's also our jobs.
Our job is only going to get harder.
It's worrisome.
This is something that's unprecedented.
Now is not the time to be a cowboy. No one has anything to prove. We're all in this together.
Welcome to Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I'm Natalie Clydesdale, and I'm here with Rob Way, a reporter at WCSC in Charleston, South Carolina. Thank you, Rob, for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
My first question is, how have you had to adjust the way that you work throughout the pandemic?
That's a great question. There's been a lot of adjustments we've all had to make. I mean, we have anchors reporting from home, we have meteorologists reporting from home, and we have reporters reporting from home. The other day I did an entire package from home, FaceTime interviews, video submitted. I had them kind of help me shoot some video wherever they were for the story. So it's finding new creative ways to stay safe, but also still get those really important community stories out there. I think right now we are more vital than ever before as journalists to keep telling folks stories. So one of the big changes was figuring out different live shots in the house, trying to figure out how do you make your house a live shot for a story that has nothing to do with your house.
Right.
So you kind of just have to create more of a general shot in that instance. So yeah, it's been a lot of changes, a lot more FaceTime and Zoom interviews than I've ever done before, but it's getting creative. I think it's really put to the test all our creativity.
Right, so in addition to that, what other safety precautions has the station taken?
Sure, yeah. So our station was pretty early on in getting as few people into the building as possible. So I think it must have been 3 weeks ago now, they had all reporters report completely from the field. We each have our own car, our own set of equipment, all dedicated to one car, and that's our car. So I take in batteries now at night to my house to charge and things along those lines. So that was one of the early safety precautions. And of course, we now have anchors and meteorologists, like I said before, who are also at home, kind of not having as many people in the station. They also made sure they got us plenty of hand sanitizer, wipes, which I know are hard to find right now, but luckily we got them a little early on. I just got a face mask today because that was one of the new recommendations, was wearing a face covering if you're in a crowded area. So we just want to make sure we have that too. So I have all the supplies I need right now in order to stay safe.
Do you have a photog or anything, or are you shooting everything on your own?
I shoot everything on my own. So it's difficult at times because a lot of the times in like these big breaking news stories, I would have a photographer, but in this instance, I do not. So it's figuring out everything on my own too. I'm calling a lot of people, trying to see what they're doing. And trying to learn from different reporters I see on Facebook and Twitter, and see the different things they're doing and trying to pick up those skills too.
Right. Have you had to use, I've talked to other reporters and they said they had to use a 6-foot-long stick for the microphone. Like, have you been having to use that? No.
I don't have a 6-foot-long stick, but what I do have is wipes. So what I do is I literally wipe down the lav microphones, the one that folks clip on themselves. So I wipe it down and I hand it to them with the wipe in my hand. So they take it. I then step back so we can stay socially distant. I walk them through how to clip it on themselves. And then I'll take out another wipe when they hand it back to me, wipe it down again. And that's how I've been doing in-person interviews. I found it the best way because sometimes if you're holding a stick mic, you're still pretty close to them.
Right.
But of course, if you have that long extender there, that's hugely beneficial. I don't have one of those, so kind of making do with what I got.
Have people been pretty willing to still talk to you if they see you wipe it down or anything, or have some people been hesitant about it?
Yeah, most people have been totally fine and understanding with it. A lot of the times they still want to get their story out. And I walk them through before I do the microphone thing. I say, this is how I've been dealing with it. And it's funny when you're putting these packages together, you always try to get the best quality. That's typically our main goal. But right now our main goal is trying to remain socially distant and getting the best quality you can from those distances. So yeah, but as for the folks I've been interviewing, they've been more than happy to watch me wipe everything down, remain socially distant. everyone's been pretty understanding of that.
That's good. How has it been finding stories? Have you had an easier time, a harder time?
It's funny. I thought at first, when they had us reporting solely from the field, I said, oh my gosh, by next week I'm going to be out of story ideas. I'm so worried. I have not hit any problems. I've not had any problems finding stories, getting stories. I've luckily built up some great sources in the community that have keep alerting me to different things. And of course, the coronavirus, we constantly have new stories coming out. Some tragic, some where we just saw one of our main hospitals lay off 900 people. So we have a lot of stories that are impacting the community, and things like that you obviously don't plan for, and you see those stories and you go and report on them. But other stories, I've been really trying to focus on some of the positive stuff that folks are doing. I think now's a time in news where people really want to see, okay, how are people coming together? Because that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
I don't think we see it all that often through the year, or it can highlight it as much as we do during this. But it's been pretty great to highlight bus drivers who are volunteering to drive meals to kids. You know, things along those lines that are just great stories to tell. So it's really prime time for storytelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Like about the bus driver and everything. So you mentioned you've covered some really sad stories, like that got 900 workers getting laid off. How have you been able to deal with kind of the stress of all of this and like remain positive?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it does become stressful, right? You are dealing with people's lives. You're telling the stories of people's lives. It's not just an interview. It's not just a conversation in those ways, but you're literally telling someone's story. So an example that I had, I got reached out to. I got a tip about this couple who was stuck in Peru because Peru closed their borders with only a 24-hour notice. They didn't give anyone time to really get out unless you already had a flight. So everyone was stuck inside with the borders closed. Meanwhile, these people were there, this couple from the Charleston area were there, and he was running out of his heart medication. They couldn't get out of the country. Their next flight out wasn't until May, and this was a few weeks ago. I mean, they're literally trapped. So telling their story is so difficult in the sense of, wow, these people are trapped. But as a reporter and as a news person, you're trying to think, okay, what can we do to get some results and get some answers for these people? They're not getting responses from senators. They're not getting responses from the embassy. So I reached out to all of them. And that night, Senator Tim Scott, our senator here in South Carolina, sent a letter to Secretary Pompeo citing my story, trying to get them home. And luckily, a week or so later, they got home on a humanitarian flight. So I'm not saying I'm the one who did that, but when you are in this position, you can really try to help people who need it. And I'm not saying I can help everybody. And I'm not saying that was necessarily the catalyst that brought them home. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But you're able to shine light on their story and tell their story in such a way that it does have that impact.
Yeah, you did your part. You did everything you could do. So that's great. Yeah. So I keep seeing on social media that people are blaming a lot of the hype about the coronavirus on the media. What is your response to that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I've had people come up to me. I was at a story, this woman, because we're trying to highlight the stories of folks who are getting tested, the problems with testing, folks who have coronavirus. So I went to this house of this woman who was tested. We didn't know at that point if she had it or not. So how I did the interview, I had her sit on the inside window. I had her call me. I put the phone on the ground and the mic next to the phone. So that's how I was going to get her audio. And I shot the camera through the window with it all closed, and I did a window shot. So she was looking through the window. Mm-hmm. You have to get creative in these times to keep things visual. And as I was setting all this up, I was on the phone with her inside. This car whips up behind my car, and this woman screams. And I couldn't hear at first what she said because I'm on the phone. And I said, what did you say? And she's like, what are you doing here? And I said, oh, I'm working on a story for today. And she says, what's the story about? And I said, oh, well, she's still waiting for results about coronavirus. And the woman goes, oh, the media, always hyping everything up and trying to blow things way out of proportion. And without me being able to even say a single word, she was back in her car, made it a point to make a dramatic U-turn and pull away. We have those instances. They do happen. My response, if she let me have a conversation with her. And what I found is a lot of these people don't want to have a conversation with us about it. But one of the things I would say is we are out here reporting the stories. We are trying to get the facts out. We may not have all the answers to everything, but we are trying to find them out with you. And my final point to anybody is everyone's lives are being affected by this. Mm-hmm. Our lives have changed. Our families' lives have changed. I have family members who are doctors and nurses. Everyone's lives have changed around this. So to say that the media is trying to hype something up, we would never try to hype something up if it weren't something. It affects us too. Right. You know, it affects all of us. So why would we hype anything up in that sense? Not that we hype anything up ever. But yeah, if I could have a conversation with someone who says those things, that would be my conversation. This is all of us. This involves all of us, and we're just trying to get through it.
Yeah, I agree. So kind of switching gears here, what would your advice be for someone like who's just starting out in the broadcast journalism industry?
That's a great question. There is so much to learn. Just be a sponge. I think that was the best thing. I went into this job almost 2 years ago now, and right out of college. And I said, okay, let me just absorb everything. Ask questions. Don't be afraid. When you go to a station, wherever you start, or wherever, newspaper, wherever a journalist begins, ask questions. I talk to those folks who I call the legacy people of the station. One anchor who's been there 40 plus years behind the desk at Live 5 News. I go up to him and I say, what do you think of this? Or what do you think of this? Or can you watch this story and let me know what you think? And especially in my first year, I still do it now, 2 years in, but especially in my first year, it was so helpful in helping me grow, and they were happy to do it. And you can find the people at your station who are really happy to teach and guide you. You just have to let them know that's what you want, because not all the time do people jump in and try to help you, because they might think you want to do it on your own. So once you start reaching out to people and asking those questions and asking, take a look at this story I did. I'm not really happy with it. Where do you think I can find improvements? Or what question do you think I could have asked that I didn't, that would have helped? So be a sponge and just talk to people. Ask those questions to folks who've really done this a while.
What was the biggest challenge for you when you first started?
I was 1,000 miles from home, which was certainly a challenge on one end. But of course, you do it for the job and you love it. On the other end, the challenge was, you're in it now. You missed the 6 o'clock news slot, you're fired. You know what I mean? It's not maybe not fired, but they're not happy with you. So there's a new demand that you didn't feel in college, right? You knew you had to meet deadline, but you had a week to do a package.
Right.
Now you have 5 hours. So it's figuring out time management. That was probably the biggest thing. And the most stressful thing was time management. But you figure it out. You do it. You don't miss a slot. And all is good. So, yeah, that would probably be my biggest thing.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add about covering the coronavirus, about just the broadcast journalism industry in general?
No, but I wish you all the luck.
Thank you, Rob, for taking the time to talk to me, and thank you for all the work you're doing to keep us informed and safe.
Well, I appreciate it, and thank you for all you're doing, too. You guys are on the front lines of this as well.
And thank all of you for watching this episode of Reporting from the Frontline of a Pandemic. I've been talking with Rob Way, a reporter at WCSC in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm Natalie Clydesdale.